Now, after Sikh for Justice founder Gurpatwant Pannun issued yet another threat against Indian diplomats in G7 countries, this time drawing the comparison with Hamas campaigns against Israel, the Hindu Forum of Canada has written to the Trudeau administration seeking action against his statement. The Hindu Forum wrote to Minister Dominic LeBlanc asking that Pannun be barred from entering Canada as they fear for the safety of the Hindu community in Canada. They have also implored the Canadian government to investigate Pannun thoroughly if he is, in fact, a Canadian citizen. All right, viewers, joining me on the broadcast is my colleague Vipin Parmar. Vipin, over to you to give us more details on this.
Of course, in recent past, we have witnessed that how things changed between India and the Canadian administration and the government. But you see the dilemma and lackness of Canadian government that they are continuously boosting or supporting these Khalistani terrorists who are sitting there, backed by ISI, trying to disturb the peace and harmony of the nation. And this time again, Gurpatwant Pannun, who is not a resident of Canada, but also he's continuously visiting Canada in recent past after the tussle between Indian government and the Canadian government. And now what he had done, after threatening, after issuing multiple threats to the nation, after calling for the execution of Indian diplomats in Canada. Now he had given a threat to G7 countries, High Commission who are sitting over there in the different parts of the world to execute them. So now the Canadian Hindu community who is there in Canada, they have written a complaint and they have given a memorandum to the Justin Trudeau that action should be taken against Gurpatwant Pannun and he should be debarred entering the Canadian territory. So this time again, Gurpatwant Pannun, who is also trying to disturb the peace and the harmony of Punjab, but also this time he is continuously targeting Indian diplomats over there, not only in Canada but also other part of the nation. But we have to wait and see, because in recent part we have continuously seen that Trudeau, his government is continuously supporting these Khalistani terrorists who are sitting there and backed by ISI, and not taking any sort of action against these people.
Right, Vipin. In fact, still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Sanjeev Srivastav. Now, of course, the Hindu Forum Canada has demanded action against the Khalistani leader Gurpatwant Pannun, who is in fact openly endorsing Hamas. What do you make of these developments?
Well, Sabri, Gurpatwant Pannun is a terrorist. He is wanted in India. He is booked here under the USPA, and we would like to see him justice delivered here in India. And obviously, India has been urging to Canadian government to take action against him. And obviously, the kind of posturing he is showing at this point of time, when the world has faced one of the bloodiest terror attacks by the terrorist entity known as Hamas, and in these hours of crisis, this terrorist Pannun is supporting Hamas. He is endorsing Hamas. So this shows his real character. He is a terrorist, as I said, and he must be dealt with the way a terrorist should be dealt. A terrorist must be dealt. But unfortunately, despite his acts of terror, despite his character of terror, Canadian government is ignoring him and his activities. And that might cost very heavily for Canada. I know Canada has been, doing this kind of a thing in past, and whenever Canada has done it, Canada has paid a very heavy price. Here, obviously, I am referring to the Kanishka bombing. Then Pierre Trudeau's administration had ignored the Babbar Khalsa terrorists and their activities, and they carried out this kind of one of the worst aviation terrorism disaster before 9/11. So I think the biggest aviation disaster before 9/11. So I think the Canadian government must take strictest possible action, and this kind of terrorists, they should not be allowed to operate, and their real place is behind bars, and they must be tried, and justice should be delivered to them. And that is precisely India has been urging. But instead of taking action against these terrorists and extremists operating from Canadian soil, this Trudeau administration, for their some political narrow gains, they make absurd, baseless allegations against India itself. So I think this is a very kind of a negative mindset, immature mindset, insane mindset. I think is very much prevailing still, and the Trudeau administration is still not realizing that how dangerous these terrorists are, even for Canadian society. I think when it was a time when the democracies of the world are coming together to fight against terrorism, United States of America and other nations, including India, we are showing full solidarity to the Israelis in their war against terrorism. In these hours of challenge and crisis, I think still Trudeau administration is not realizing that what kind of a blunder they are making by sheltering and harboring these terrorists like Gurpatwant Pannun. So I think this kind of this is showing his real character. He's also threatening to carry out attacks on the G7 embassies of India in G7 countries. So all sorts of regarding ICC World Cup also he had issued some threats, etc., etc. So all sorts of negative and terrorist acts he is indulging into, and that must be given a proper treatment. But unfortunately, Canada, despite knowing the fact that what kind of a character he is, I think they are not taking action, and the reason is pretty straight and simple, that Trudeau administration is relying for his government to survive on one party, which is obviously having a close link with Gurpatwant Pannun and other terrorists. So I think this kind of approach of Canada will cost him very heavily, and Canada's image has taken a severe beating in recent times because of the kind of posturing they are showing against various issues, including terrorism. So I think this kind of posturing and this kind of positioning which Canada is taking under the Trudeau administration has severely damaged the cause of unity to fight against terrorism. And I think Canada, if it realizes that what kind of blunder they are making, it will be good. But unfortunately, still, despite this kind of realities coming on the ground, despite this evidence coming on the face, Justice Trudeau should look these statements and this kind of threats, etc., as a real evidence. That what kind of evidence Pannun is providing, and you have the evidence and you are not taking any action. So I think it is high time that Canada realizes its blunder, but unfortunately, still I think the good sense is not prevailing, which is a sad thing to see.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.